803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. My name, of course, is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We've got several things that we're going to get into. I want to just a quick thought on the All-Star game. And I'm a guy that grew up loving baseball. I played baseball down in when I was a kid at Park Circle down in Charleston, and it was just a part of my life for the longest time. And I still love the game of baseball. Don't get me wrong, but the reality is that when I really stop and think about baseball, it seems like our best players aren't playing baseball anymore. So I kind of wanted to get into that this afternoon, and the reason being is that when you watch the game last night, the two biggest stars of the game were gentlemen who weren't born in this country. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm thinking that baseball has gotten to a point where it's a global sport, but I think that the rest of the country cares more about it than we do as Americans now. I truly believe that. Meaning that I don't know if kids are playing baseball anymore. It's just a vibe that I get. And I kind of wanted to throw that out there. Shohei Ohtani last night leading off and leading off as the DH and pitching last night. Something unique to see. And then you've got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. winning the MVP. Yeah, that's interesting in that I'm not saying that baseball's passed us by, but I don't think a lot of people are playing baseball anymore as far as kids go. Jerome with a good comment online, never as was wild about soccer or baseball, and that's fine. But just kind of one little thing I wanted to throw out there. By the way, the Gamecocks had a young man decide to transfer, wide receiver Mike Wyman, who I believe that's the name. I want to make sure I get his name correctly here. And the reason why we don't know much about him is simply because the young man didn't play last year, but he's a former 4-star receiver. Mike Wyman has entered the transfer portal, according to Matt Zenitz of On3 Sports. He was the number 339 player in the 2020 class after a standout career at Dudley High in Greensboro, North Carolina. Did not see the field with the Gamecocks as he was redshirted last fall. Now, I know some Gamecock fans look at this and think, man, this is another guy that transfers. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's that big of a deal. You see a young man transfer out, and you think, oh, okay. But the reality is, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I think that he may, there's so many different things that can happen with a kid when they go. But I seen some folks online today, and they were like, man, another guy's transferred out. Crazy. I put that out there because I don't think Gamecock fans should be upset about it. I really don't. Anyway, a couple of notes on that. If you want to talk about that, 803-978-1832. And I think a lot of times, man, in the first year, players transfer in and out. If you remember last year, and Mike Leach may be a bad example with this, but he had one of the best running backs in the country decide to transfer out. Things happen. And that's why I think the first year for a lot of coaches is a big deal in that you let them come in and wipe the slate clean. And what I mean by that is that if we have the setup where you want to get these guys and have everybody completely bought into what you're doing. So on one front, it looks like, man, you got a guy that's transferring out, and we're almost to the point where fall camp is fixing to start. I mean, SEC Media Days are next week. But you know what? On the other hand, you've got the idea of, I don't want anybody on my boat that's not happy. It's kind of the way to look at it. Fireball with a great comment online. Quit crying. We have 25 gone. Yeah. And a coach and an AD. for some reason, some people think you're going to finish better than South Carolina when a quarter of your 100 players have transferred out. Wrap your head around that for a second. Remember, the guy that was going to be in the running to be your quarterback decided to go to Liberty to look for Jesus. And there's nothing wrong with that, sir. Nothing wrong with that at all. 803-978-1832. Also, the thing last night with the All-Star game, I said I wasn't going to watch, and you know what? Maybe I was deceptive. I watched a good piece of it. I really did. But watching it, I realized how international the game is and how it seems like, okay, we're not completely with it as a country anymore when it comes to that. Just saying. Have we gotten away from baseball and making it where a lot of our great players play that? 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go. And good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
Hey, Rob. Talking about the decline of baseball in America.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have coached Little League for the past 7 years, and I can count on one hand how many African-American kids I've had. And I had to go out and recruit those kids to come play baseball. Yeah. It's just not their sport that they want to play.
Well, and that comes back to another piece of it. You know, Commissioner Sanford announced an agreement with the Players Alliance yesterday to pump like $100 million into them, and they're going to make sure that areas that need it get equipment and et cetera. You know, to play baseball, you need a big group to play. That's one thing. I can take 4 of my buddies and, you know, go play some basketball. Yeah. And that's a big deal too. But as far as, you know, if I'm going to play baseball, I mean, you need a good bit of people and you need equipment and everything else. So maybe that's a part of it. Maybe it really is, you know?
And we're seeing a lot of kids playing soccer than playing baseball now.
Yeah.
I mean,
and lacrosse is something that's catching fire too.
Yeah, so, that's right here in South Carolina.
Yeah, it's
and I never thought I would see soccer and lacrosse getting bigger than baseball, but you know, soccer is bigger than baseball right now in South Carolina.
Yep.
And you just can't get the kids that are the quality athletes anymore to play baseball.
I'm with you on that.
It's a long game. It takes a long time to play. Yeah. They need to have some time limits on the pitching. There's some stuff that they can change, but they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, sir.
Soccer has no timeouts. It's going to last this long.
Yep, and
football's going to last about this long. Yeah, they have some timeouts, but it's more action than baseball.
That's true.
I mean, a baseball game might be 4-3 over 3 hours.
Yeah, very good point on that, sir. You're right about that.
Yeah, but there's something that's got to come to it. With your point about Tennessee, I still think that Tennessee has the better coach than South Carolina.
You think Josh Heupel's better than Shane Beamer, even though?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This not even close. He's done it.
Yeah, but he didn't really build a program. I mean, I think they're pretty much on an even level as far as I'm concerned.
He didn't build a program, but he has led a program, and he's been an offensive coordinator. Neither one of those Shane Beamer's done.
That's a fair assessment.
They lost that quarterback. They didn't really lose him. He kicked him off the team.
Well, he had to go to Liberty to find Jesus. Hugh Freeze did it. Yeah. It's not a bad thing.
Well, Darion Kendrick had to go to UGA to escape the weed problem. That doesn't mean he's going to be great. You know what I mean?
I hear you on that, sir.
All right, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Lots of interesting comments there. Trey responding immediately to what he said about not being an offensive coordinator. Dabo Sweeney wasn't an offensive coordinator. And I know that's just one example, but you know, it's across the board, man. I don't think that being a college head coach right now has as much to do with X's and O's as it is to leading a team like it's a business. I know that sounds silly. The CEO perspective is kind of what's in now. If you know the X's and O's, that's great. But I've got Trey with another great comment. Of course, Trey has wrote stuff for our blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com about the Gamecocks and all kinds of good stuff there. Go and check out some of the writing he did. Just scroll back. It was pre-COVID, but some good stuff there. And he said, love paying tribute to Hank Aaron in Denver instead of Atlanta. Good call, baseball. Look, I'm in the camp of we should pay tribute to Hank Aaron anyway because Hank Aaron was awesome. But seeing that in Denver was absolutely disgusting. I know that sounds silly, but I mean, it was political things that if baseball truly cared about the election laws in Atlanta or in Georgia, you can feel one way about it or another. I'm not trying to get into that side of it here, but if you're going to take a stand, hang everything out there. Hang your entire nose out there. Don't give me this nonsense of we're just going to move the All-Star game. If that's the case, move all the games out of Atlanta. You don't need any of them in Atlanta. If that's the case, why have the games there if you're not going to have the All-Star game? It's ridiculous. It's a publicity stunt for Major League Baseball. I don't care what side of the argument you stand on as far as the election laws. We can have a conversation about that on our sister station of 103.5 FM WVOC where they talk issues. But as far as what baseball did to Atlanta, that is ridiculous. And I don't like to talk the politics of it, but I assure you that the majority of the people in Atlanta that would have benefited from Major League Baseball were the people that were in the hospitality industry and everything like that. Lower income folks were really, really hurt by this, which is the same people they say they're trying to protect their voting rights. So shame on Major League Baseball forever for what they did. Rob Manfred, I'm glad they booed him every time he was on in front of a microphone. He should be booed forever. It's ridiculous. Regardless of what you think about the election laws, we don't have to get into that. But if they cared that much, here's a thought. Just tell Atlanta you can't play games here. Figure something out. Take a stand or don't. You're a bunch of smooth surfaces up there. A bunch of Ken dolls up in the commissioner's office. If you don't know what that is, find a Ken doll. You'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, no disrespect to Trey over there, but he got me fired up with that because I was half hot last night. Almost 3/4 hot, which means that the kids will hear me upstairs ranting and raving like I was just doing with you. Taking something from Atlanta just to make a statement. Just stop it. Anyway, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Sorry to rant about that for a moment, but it just made me silly. If you want to respond to the caller too, he thinks that Josh Heupel is a better coach than Shane Beamer. We'll take those calls at 803-978-1832. I'm in the camp of being a coach now is a point of, yeah, you need to know some X's and O's, but I'd rather have someone that can recruit and has the ability to get a lot of guys that know the X's and O's that can help make me better. You know what I'm saying? I think that's more important. You can be an X's and O's nerd and not be successful. Seriously. It's all about being able to market your university too. I think that's a big part of it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Alan online says Heupel and Beamer are average as grits. What grits? I will not sit here and let you mock grits, sir. Alan is obviously from up north. He doesn't know what grits are. He's probably never tasted grits in his life. He probably put sugar in his grits. You're one of those guys, right? My mother-in-law does that. She puts sugar in the kids' grits. I'm like, what are you doing? More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Dude, she does that. Oh, the with Nebraska with their the AD hire. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a good hire for them, man. You never know until they get in, and it seems like a lot of folks like it. So, we'll go from there. My mother-in-law does that, man. I got nothing for you. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Trey with another comment. Sugar on grits is called cream of wheat. Yes. I don't know. I don't know what not mocking my mother-in-law here. So there's that. It's silly. Couple of questions over there. Brandon says, for the Gamecocks to make a bowl game, they need to beat East Carolina, Vandy, Tennessee, and split the Kentucky and Mizzou games. Do you agree? Well, looking at South Carolina's schedule, yeah, I mean, if you need 6 games, I mean, that's the common math there, unless you're going to get an upset. The FPI has them at what, 5 wins, something like that. And I think that, if you had to hold me down and say, you know what, pick the games that you're sure they're going to win. Obviously Eastern Illinois is one of them. East Carolina is another one. The Wofford game and the Vanderbilt game. And I forget who the other non-conference matchup is. I've got to write the schedule here. I've got a nice big whiteboard up here, and we got to figure that out. I'll put that up there shortly. But when I really stop and look at it, though, it's like, the Gamecocks are going to have to pull out a game that right now may look like a big upset for them to go to a bowl game this year. And I think that patience is going to be the word that we have to look at when it comes to this season for South Carolina. And I think a lot of folks are, the whole win now mentality, having the idea of, hey, we can have somebody turn it around like Mac Brown turned it around at North Carolina. That was kind of an exception to the rule. But the East Carolina game, the Troy game, the Vanderbilt game, and am I thinking they play Wofford? I don't know why I'm thinking that. East Carolina, Eastern Illinois, Troy, that's the 3 games, and the Vanderbilt game. And then after that, they're going to have to win a couple. Everybody and their brother is high on Kentucky. Until Kentucky gets a quarterback, stop bothering me. I'm about at that point with Kentucky. Until you get a quarterback, stop bothering me. Seriously. And stop with the people, oh, we should look out for Kentucky. Get a quarterback. Get someone that can make plays under center. Okay? So, yeah, they may have a good defense, and, South Carolina may be lacking on offense this year. Other than the running back room, do you really feel great about any part of the South Carolina offense? I mean, really, deep down. Now, don't give me, okay, this may work out or that may work out. I'm talking about things you can bank on. Other than the running back room, do you feel good about any real part of the South Carolina offense? If you're completely honest, you're going to be like, no, not really. Not really. On the defensive side of the ball, South Carolina has got talent. Will Muschamp left some talent over there. Pickens and other guys like that were highly rated. Now, he may have missed out on the evaluation of them, or he may have missed out on the development of them. I don't know for sure. They haven't really put good stuff together yet. But if all those guys can come together under Coach White's system there, then, the Gamecocks might be I mean, I don't think it's that far fetched to say they could be a middle of the road defense in the SEC. I mean, I'm not going to say that they are, but it's possible. Offense is going to be the issue, in my opinion. 803-978-1832. I mean, they're going to be, I think they'll be favored in the 4 games that I mentioned. The Mizzou game is on the road at Mizzou, and the Kentucky game is in Columbia, and it's near the start of the season. So I think that's kind of interesting, to say the least. You know, no one thought that they would beat, what was it, Auburn last year. I'm just saying, things can happen. It's the world of football. But I'm pretty confident in those 4 games. East Carolina, though, how they play in that matchup. If they go up there and they do what an SEC team is supposed to do to East Carolina, go up there and impose your will. Hey, you know what? We're a Power 5 school. We're going to walk in here. We're going to win at the line of scrimmage because we recruit better there. We're going to live in your backfield because that's what we're supposed to do. Yeah, I think if that happens and they come out and dominate that game, not necessarily dominate it, but if they win it 27-10, something like that, if they struggle or lose that game, I think the season could go off kilter just a little bit. Randall says, who has the better receivers this season, South Carolina or Clemson? It's Clemson without a doubt, sir. I mean, Justin Ross is a guy that is outstanding. I mean, ask the Alabama defense about Justin Ross. Azu is another guy that I think is going to make some plays for Clemson on the offensive side of the ball this year. And there's untapped potential, in my opinion, with Nagata and Latson. With South Carolina, I'm kind of, the guy that I'm rooting for is Dakereon Joyner. The guy who, in my opinion, could have went to a smaller school and probably played quarterback. I'm just saying, he probably could have done that. Made the change to wide receiver because he wants to be a Gamecock. That's pretty much that's the message that he's given us. Because if anybody should have transferred from the program right by now, it's Dakereon Joyner, the former Mr. Football in South Carolina, the guy that at Fort Dorchester, I believe is where he went, was throwing the ball all over the place. So if you've got that kind of talent, and he is a heck of an athlete, but he's decided, hey, I want to be here, I hope that he's the guy that steps forward this year and gets the ability to go on the field and show what kind of player he is. If you're a Gamecock fan, that should be the guy that you look at too. And you just hope that, hey, you know what? He's stuck with it. He's going to get his degree from South Carolina. He's chosen to be a Gamecock, and now he's actually on the field. Wouldn't it be nice to have a 1-2 combination of him and Muse, the tight end? Have 2 guys that can make some catches for you. Could be interesting. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Of course, gentleman earlier said he thinks that Heupel's a better coach than Beamer. We'll take calls on that. Is baseball at a point now where we call it America's pastime, but it's really the world's game? We'll talk about that too. Chris wants my honest opinion on Georgia and Clemson in week 1. I think I put this out there. I don't mind talking about this before we go to break. Both teams are extremely talented. With Georgia, and I think I've talked about this before, when I look at Georgia, I worry that the secondary for Georgia hasn't played together. And I wonder if they're going to be completely in sync at the first game of the season. You can have talent back there. talent's not the issue. There's a set to being, hey, the first game that the majority of the Georgia secondary is going to play is going to be game 1 against Clemson. So I don't know how that's going to work out. So when I look at that for Georgia, I look at that as a question mark, in my opinion. I do think that Georgia has the better running game than Clemson does right now. I think Clemson has the better quarterback. I know folks love JT Daniels, but in the end, I'm in the camp that DJ Uiagalelei is going to be a guy that, in my opinion, is going to just be a star. Absolutely be a star. Now, Georgia's defensive line is great. Clemson's defensive line is great. You can make an argument that Clemson's offensive line needs some work. I think the Georgia offensive line is pretty good. I really do. I think that Georgia right now has, they talk about they're going to have Eric Gilbert basically replace the receiver that got injured. And I just find that hard to believe in that being his first game of the season. So wide receiver may be kind of a wash, in my opinion. We shall see on that front. But when it comes down to it, I think that Dabo Swinney's a better coach than Kirby Smart. I think that Dabo Swinney can make adjustments at the half. Kirby Smart has proven that he can't. And I think Clemson wins the game by 6 points. I think that's pretty much the way that it's going to go. Now, on the other hand, and this is with any game, if that Georgia secondary clicks and they pick off a couple of passes, it could float to Georgia's way quick. But I think Clemson will control the pace, and I think that, in my opinion, I think Clemson wins by close, between 6 and a touchdown. So you want to respond to that, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. Blind Squirrel says, does Georgia have enough depth in the trenches to be a contender? We're going to find out. That's the best part, man. We're getting to the talking part of the season. Boy, come September the 4th at 7:30, it goes from talking time to about to find out time. And you know what? We had college football last year, and it was great to have. But having the people in the stands this year and having the full crowd and the ambiance and all of that, I mean, it's going to be like sensory overload for folks after last year. It really is. It's almost like a welcome back college football. It really is. Anyway, if you want to respond to what we've talked about, 803-978-1832. Quick break and we come back. We'll have more for you here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Some comments from, let's see here. Let's put Andres up there. Till Georgia does anything noteworthy, it's hard to pick. You can have that. That's a great point. Jimmy's ready to go. I don't blame you, man. Regardless of where you're at, man, it's going to be spot the ball and go. Edwin with a good comment. Gilbert is a matchup problem at tight end. Will he still be a problem at wide receiver? That's the thing, too. First game of the season. Everybody's heard the coach speak, right? You make the biggest adjustments from game 1 to game 2. Boom. That's the big thing. So there's that. Yeah, Spencer says Spencer's correct. About Spencer's correct about I think he's signing is what I meant. Yeah, having the NFL back is going to be great. The prediction for the Alabama Miami game. Come on, Brandon Coon. That's going to be blowout. In what, Jerome? Hoops? We're not talking football here. We're not talking about them beating Ole Miss in football. Lane Kiffin, I think, will hang 50 points on Tennessee if he can. I truly believe that. We'll talk about that coming out of the break. 12 teams are too much, Trey. It takes too much away from it, brother. It's silly and sad to have that many, in my opinion. If you're going to have it, I get it, but 12 teams is just too much. I kind of like what we have now. A 1-12 matchup doesn't appeal to me at all. Good point, man. Yeah, Clemson will punt a lot in the fourth quarter, Allen, when they're up. I don't see that happening, Jerome. That's funny, though. Trey, we agree a lot, sir. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Couple of things here. Brandon asked me what I thought about the Miami-Alabama game. I think Alabama's going to win that game. Sort of like the way they won the Mizzou game last year. It's going to be like 27-10, something like that. I don't know how well De'Aaron King's going to be for that matchup, but Alabama rolls. And it won't be much to harp on. The LSU-UCLA matchup is huge. Huge, because UCLA, let's be honest, that is their season. They will print T-shirts that they beat LSU like App State did when they beat Michigan in the Big House. If they get that win over LSU. And you know what? If Ed Orgeron loses that game, they may Lane Kiffin him. What I mean is leave him on the tarmac. Fire him right there on the spot. Do what they did to, Belima at Arkansas. Just take off the Arkansas pullover. We'll pack your office. Get the hell out of here. He will not be invited to any crawfish boils down in the land of the Cajun folks if they drop that game to UCLA. Trust me, there's a level of I don't know if it's arrogance or not, but LSU fans expect to win that game. Period. And after the 5-5 year last year, Orgeron needs that game big time. Andre with a good point. If LSU loses that game, they can go and hire Billy Napier down the street. Good point, sir. Good point. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Blind Squirrel says, I must admit it's sad to see what's become of Vols football. Once upon a time, Rocky Top was awesome, but that was many moons ago. You know, you're right. Let's not forget, what was it, 3 seasons ago? Tennessee didn't win a conference game. What? Tennessee didn't win a conference game 3 years ago. Yet, And I'm not mocking Tennessee fans, but they still think they're an elite blue blood program. The T doesn't mean as much anymore, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion. It really doesn't. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Of course, you're always welcome to join us there. Appreciate the folks that have downloaded the podcast. And some of the comments I get from the podcast are outstanding. Sometimes people will say, you said this on the show. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't say that. And then I go back, oh, yeah, I did. Sorry. I'm going to try to do better. But thank you for downloading the podcast and making it a part of your day. And I know we're live every day from 3 to 4 o'clock. I know folks, some folks are like, you know what, man, I don't have time to watch the show. That's fine, man. You can still be a part of the show. Follow us on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Follow the podcast. You can watch it on the Fox Sports Radio Facebook page, on the YouTube channel at Carolina Jackpot. You name it. Very simple. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. We were talking also about baseball, where now it's the world's game and not necessarily America's pastime anymore. I got upset about them honoring Hank Aaron at the All-Star game because it should have been in Atlanta. Yeah, what a mess. What an absolute mess. All right, some of the comments. Fireball says, we've sucked for years, Rob, and still have 3 times as many national titles as Clemson. Yes, sir, I completely agree with you. But to put this into perspective, the quarterback for the last time you won a national title, his son played on Clemson's team last year. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Mr. Sanders, how are you, sir?
What's up, buddy?
Not much. I wanted to touch on that Napier thing about LSU. I thought it extremely odd that he was offered a Power 5 team. Granted, it was Auburn, but he turned it down. It kind of makes me think that he might know something that we don't know about Orgeron. Because, man, it's hard to turn down that kind of money, no matter if it's
respectfully, sir, do we know for sure that he turned down was he offered the Auburn job?
That's what the reports were. That's what we heard.
I'm not saying, I'm not disputing you. I just don't remember if he may have been offered several jobs. He's a heck of a coach. So behind the scenes, he might have been, but if he turned down the Auburn job, then you might be right. Maybe he knows something. Who knows?
I think he'd be a fantastic hire. And you made a really good point yesterday about LSU and Woodward. He didn't hire Orgeron, so he might have a lot shorter leash than he would have, with the other athletic director. So I'm gonna be honest. I mean, it's
the one thing that stands with that. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is he wants that image of the stuff that went on when Les Miles was there. He wants that gone. No athletic director wants Title IX investigation on any part of any program. And the stench of that is still going to be there because Orgeron was there. He's been named as part of one of the cases with the lady that's there. So that's something that Orgeron's going to have to battle out of. And if I'm an athletic director and I can walk away from that, I probably want to do that quick.
Oh, I agree 100%. But if something that's happened, he does get fired, they could absolutely 1 hour down the road. And I think Napier would absolutely jump at the opportunity for a LSU job. So if something happens, that's fine. If it doesn't, and we have a great season, that's good too. I think either way, and there's no way that LSU can lose for this.
Well, I think a 9-3 season gets Orgeron fired.
I agree.
I know that sounds harsh. 9-3 probably gets him canned.
I agree 100%. And I think Alabama, we're going to probably lose that game, A&M and Florida. But the UCLA game, like you said earlier, is absolutely key. If LSU does not get on UCLA quick and let them hang around, they might be in some serious trouble. And it might be a situation like when LSU lost to Wisconsin with Les Miles, first game of the season, we were already saying fire him. So I agree 100% with your point.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for calling the show.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. Yeah, you're right about that too. Lots of great comments coming from folks today. We'll have to see how that works out. But yeah, the other thing too is that what if Ed Orgeron somehow sprinkles the dust on Miles Brennan or whoever the quarterback is and gets that LSU team to, I'm not saying repeat as the Joe Burrow team, but if they can sprinkle that magic on there, beat Alabama, and roll into the college football playoff, man, that puts everybody into a weird spot. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Quick break. When we come back, final segment of the rundown here on a Wednesday. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. I'm working out my prediction on Nebraska, sir. I got to figure that out. That's a good thing there, man. I'm pulling up my notes now. I normally do predictions for about 20 teams out of the year. And it's kind of hard for me to pick the 20 teams, but we'll see. Fireball, Clemson has 3 national titles, sir. I don't know what, 1981 and then the past 2. Come on, man. You go spit some facts, brother. At least have some there. And by the way, they've had 2 since you had your last one. Just throwing that out there, sir. Let me see what my notes tell me. Hold on. Oh, here's what I wrote about Nebraska, sir. They've got 4 out of their last 5 and 6 out of their last 8 are at home. So I think with that, Nebraska should be definitely over 500. So I think I've got them at 7 wins, 7 or 8 wins. So there you go with that. I think there's a section of LSU fans that want him gone. I could be wrong, Edwin. Don't be throwing stuff at me. I don't need to hear all that. Yeah, that's funny. Always love some good smack talk in the chat. Blind Squirrel says, with NIL in play, which team has more players sign endorsements with skull chewing tobacco, Alabama or Tennessee? Ooh, that's crazy. That's some crazy stuff there. There's one offensive line that's sponsored by a barbecue company. I thought that was good. I thought that was really good. So there's that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. Some good clean smack you can throw around with your kids in the room. Yeah, that's all right. Not too far-fetched. Brandon with a question, will I be watching the Olympics? Yeah, I think everybody watches the Olympics. I'm not too happy with USA basketball right now. Talked about that too. They're not looking too impressive. You lose a tune-up game to Nigeria and a tune-up game to, who was the other team they lost to? Australia. I'm not very confident in your ability to put some stuff out there, to be honest. We'll have to see. Have to see how that works. But for the Olympics, for me, I'll watch some of the track and field stuff. I really like the basketball. I think that's probably my favorite. Some of the other sports, I mean, some of the track and field is cool. I mean, I think everybody gets into the mix as that they like a lot of the track stuff. We'll see. Justin says, do you think Lane Train and Ole Miss beat Alabama or Auburn this season? You know, someone said, I think it was Jerome, that Tennessee has in one magazine is predicted to beat Ole Miss. Look, let me put this out there for everyone in the mix here. If Lane Kiffin can hang 50 on Tennessee, he's going to do it. Trey with a good comment there. Good luck to the Suns tonight. That's right. NBA Finals. I didn't hit my microphone. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm holding up my Suns jersey. Yeah, old school Suns logo. Yeah, I got to become a crackhead so I can get skinny enough so I can fit into this jersey. I'm dead serious. Now, please, Richland County, don't come and think that I'm trying to become a crackhead, because I'm not. I'm just saying that's the kind of diet that I'm going to have to get on to be able to fit into this wonderful Phoenix Suns jersey that is a it's a retro jersey, but it was actually a legit Dan Marley jersey. That's who I wanted to be, man. I wanted to shoot threes and shoot more threes. Dan Marley had like the record for number of 3-pointers attempted. Love some Dan Marley. Anyway, but back to my thoughts on Tennessee. I think that if Lane Kiffin can hang 50 on them, he's going to do it. And he'll smile about it. Remember, what was it? There was a game. Was it the South Carolina game where he threw his clipboard down the field? Yeah. I think something like that's going to happen. He'll hang 50 on him if he could. Now, Ole Miss has the potential. I think they can beat Auburn for sure. Beating Alabama, I think the only team there are two teams in the SEC that on paper right now I think can match up with Alabama, and that's LSU and Georgia. Now, Georgia doesn't have the coaching. They don't have the coach that can make adjustments, so LSU's done it before. So if you had to ask me the SEC team that has the potential to derail Alabama this season, I'm going to go with LSU until Georgia gets out of the show me state. They got to show me that they can do it. They got to show me they can get behind in the second half and actually make adjustments. When they can do that, I'll buy in. Nick says not A&M. No. A&M doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be. Haynes King, maybe, is he going to be the guy? I don't know. I'm not really buying Texas A&M this season. In fact, I think they're going to be the team that maybe overlooked a little bit. As far as on paper with talent they have right now, Georgia and LSU are the teams that I think have the potential to beat Alabama. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. And it's not a knock on Texas A&M. They could go out in theory, I guess. Any team can lose on any day. But if you take me and say, hey, Rob, give me the team that you want, the roster that you want to beat Alabama, I got more stuff I can play with, especially with LSU. With those two All-American defensive backs, the strangest stat in the history of time was how awful the LSU pass defense was with two guys that are projected to be first-round defensive backs. Ed Orgeron should be fired for that. Seriously. If we were in a vacuum, he'd be canned for that. How do you have two guys that are projected to be first-round picks? And it's not a joke. They are really, really good. And you're going to have the pass defense they had last year. They should be ashamed of themselves for that. But they were put into positions where they couldn't do what they were great at. But we'll see. Hopefully for LSU, a lot of that is gone with the past set for the coaching staff there. At least Orgeron hired them and interviewed them this time. So we'll have that. But I would go with LSU because of that. And they've got Miles Brennan, who I believe is going to be pretty good. And Boutte is a playmaker. And then Georgia, on the other hand, JT Daniels can do some stuff. And I think they've got a good running game and potential, especially on the defensive line. So I'd take one of those two and go to war with either one of them, as long as Kirby Smart's not there. All right, tomorrow on the show, we'll have a fresh look for you. Will the Suns win tonight? We'll get into that. And a lot of other things here on the rundown. Appreciate you guys as always. It makes me really happy that I've got folks that tune in and call in and respond on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Download the podcast. It's awesome that I get to do this every day. And we're getting close, ladies and gentlemen, closer and closer to football season. With that, this show's a wrap. All right, you guys are awesome over there. Appreciate all of you, man. We'll talk to you guys later on, all right? Thank you so much. Oh, new Rob and Kale show tonight. Don't forget that. See you then.